All right. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Let This Mind. My name is Chris Melville. I'm joined by my lovely host, as usual, Miss Steph Jones, aka Lilac, and Miss Jamae Harrison. How are y'all doing tonight?
Good.
Fabulous. Ready for this
Wonderful.
Black Excellence talk?
Come on now.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And thank y'all for trusting me with taking the lead. For those who are tuning in, I appreciate you tuning in a day after our regularly scheduled time. But with the holiday and the emotional Game 7 that everyone who's a Boston Celtics fan experienced, we all needed some time to
Okay.
reevaluate our lives and situations. But I digress. Either way, we're going to be talking about all things Black excellence tonight. I'll just start with our definition, as we usually start. So the definition, I was deciding what website to kind of take it from. There are Black sources and other websites, but I think dictionary.com will kind of have it perfectly succinct. And then if you look at our hashtag Black Excellence, that's what they included in there as well. So our definition for Black excellence refers to a high level of achievement, success, or ability demonstrated by an individual, Black person, or by Black people in general. The term is often used to highlight and celebrate specific examples of such achievements and abilities. So that kind of wrapped it up for me in terms of what the definition would be for the viewer, and I hope you guys relate to that as well. But I think we all kind of have our own individual definitions and how Black excellence relates to us. So I'm not sure if any of you two ladies wanted to share first, or I can share first. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Black excellence, my mind travels all the way back to like Africa, like when we were kings and queens and like ruling nations and creating and all that. And then even coming forward, it's like just what we do is excellent. We'll find, even if we don't create something, when we're on it, it becomes excellent. It becomes the best. Like, we'll make a song better. We'll make an event better. Like, it's just, like, it just is what it is.
It's the energy.
It's the energy. That's what I think of with Black excellence. I mean, yes, it's graduation. Yes, it's all that, but it's also surviving in this country. It's also making it with little resources. So all that to me is Black excellence.
Yeah.
I agree.
Totally agree. I was just thinking like the word enhancement, like when Steph was talking, it's like you just enhance stuff. It's like, I just love how our melanated folks, we just take like what we were given and we're like, time for an upgrade. And we just enhance whatever is put in our hands. And, that's a God-given gift. I'm not saying God didn't give it to anybody else. I'm just saying, since we're on a topic of Black excellence, like we're going to talk about Black folks. So
he gave us a lot.
I love it.
He gave us a lot.
Oh yeah. I agree. And I don't, not to take away from our, other folks of color at all. We can all shine in our own light. But I've last week when we were doing our topic, kind of rang in my head, especially with the time of year and season, the month that we're going into with Juneteenth being coming up next month. I really wanted to talk about, and as a mental health podcast, a few things on this, but I think I'll give my definition of what Black excellence means to me. And I think it's kind of that ability to overcome despite the negative circumstances, despite the people counting you out, despite the systemic oppression, like still, the term is in there, to excel. And like both of you shared, anytime, Black goes with everything. So anytime we touch it, it gets, a little bit better. But I definitely wanted to be in I don't want to say that on any of our other episodes were negative, but we were talking about a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, and I wanted to kind of lighten the mood and brighten it a little bit better by talking about this. So if you're joining in the chat or in the comments, definitely Drop your shout outs to anyone you want to say, a congratulations to, or give an example of Black excellence or celebrate. Because it's not only, the public figures that do excellent things. I'm on this podcast with two excellent people. I consider myself excellent.
You are.
In a lot of spaces that I'm in. So I think really that definition of our ability to excel takes the cake for me. And in the description, I kind of did put for those who are looking to achieve it. But I think, in a lot of areas, we're just excellent at it. Yeah. Any comments?
I mean, with the top, like it's not.
Yeah. So I think, yeah. Oh yeah. So how would you say, excellence has defined your life? Lilac or Jermaine?
How it's defined our life?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
So,
Go ahead, Steph. You got that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Now I've been thrown under the excellent bus. Okay. So, so for me, I would say, Black excellence was instilled in me from when I was a child. Like my grandmother, my mother, my father, like everybody, it was just you're excellent. They poured into us. They told us what it was. We were part of Jack and Jill. We were exposed to a lot of things. We always traveled. We always moved around. It was just a lot going on, and we were always in spaces where we saw Black people doing the best. My grandmother comes from Houston by way of New Orleans, and she can remember growing up with Black millionaires. This was before integration. Whole nother topic. We were thriving before integration, right? Black millionaires. I mean, people with mansions, and it was all Black, and Black companies and businesses and organizations, and they would have balls and galas and dress up. Like that to me is Black excellence. Getting knocked down, with different things going on, and the ability to get back up. That to me is Black excellence. That's what I've seen forever. And being up here, up north, where I'm not saying Black excellence isn't seen a lot. It's just you have to really sometimes dig for it. Now I think it's exposed, especially with social media. You're seeing all, like Boston While Black, like all this, like all those things went around, back in the day. So you have to be around people who were doing the thing. And I saw doctors and I saw lawyers and I saw people creating companies and organizations and businesses. That instilled in me, like, okay, I want to reach for the stars. I want to be the best at my craft. I want to be the best at what I do. And I want to live above, so I can remember just being a child and being exposed to a lot of excellence.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, my family history is by way of the Caribbean, and I think a lot of times, and my father is American, but I don't really know too much about my family on his side. However, I know for at least the Caribbean side of it, me being, kind of am I the first? I think the first male, from my grandfather's side to go to college and, to achieve certain things. And they came here looking for a better way of life. And I think oftentimes, I think for me, I've aligned myself not only with kind of academic success and excelling in that space, but also, like I mentioned earlier, that feeling of fulfillment and that feeling of success. It's always great to get the pat on the back, the congratulations. I think for a lot of people, right, for those who aren't looking to achieve excellence, it could be overwhelming to kind of live up to those standards that are put. If you've been someone who's poured into, and they always say you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. So if your family in your unit, right, like we talked about, if you're coming from a wounded or a broken home, or if you're coming from an environment that doesn't have the greatest set of boundaries, it can be difficult to grow despite those circumstances. But a lot of people do. So, Jermaine, I see you over there still thinking about your definition. I threw it at you first, and you. I mean, why not stop? Why not stop at Brockton High? Why not be not be a great athlete, you know, in all your other pursuits? Why not? Why just?
Well,
Why
technically,
continue
you
to
threw
be
it out.
be
You
great?
threw it out to the group, and I said, "Well, Steph, she seems to have no idea together."
Right.
You're right.
So I was
Yeah.
like,
You're right.
let me ponder.
Okay.
Black excellence. Honestly, I think my mom instilled education in me since I was a wee little tot, because
Mhm.
she always said, as a Black person, people will try to take a lot from you, but one thing they can't do is take your mind away. So she was just kind of like, educate, educate, educate. She's like, listen, as far as you can go, go. Right. So I really love school. It was kind of like easy for me in some
Yeah.
cases because I'm a very inquisitive person. I have a lot of questions. I want to know a lot of random things about randomness. So education was always pushed on me, but I think uh, I don't know what excellence meant to me until I became an adult. I just
Mhm.
knew, like, do what makes sense to you and try to do your best at it. Even as an athlete, like when Chris was saying, like, yeah, you're an athlete. I was a lazy athlete. I was just one of those that was like blessed to be really good at athletics because my dad was a basketball all-star, and then my mom did basketball. She did track. So I kind of felt like being an athlete was just kind of inclined. Like I was just inclined to be one. Um, Greatness. I always use the word greatness and not excellence. Maybe that's why I didn't really have an answer off the top of my head. But now, as an elevated version of self, I realized that Black excellence was definitely instilled in me from my mom. And it was just kind of like whatever I can do to empower other people, other generations, other cultures, I'm going to do that because I feel like excellence is the ability to thrive no matter what your beginnings are, no matter what your resources are. It's just take what you got and make it great. So
Mm.
that's my answer, I suppose.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate both of you sharing that. I think, yeah, it starts in our history, right? It starts where we come from. Some of us are born more naturally gifted than others, and for some of us, it takes a significant amount of work. And I think, if you look at the title and the episode is hashtag Black Excellence, right? So that aspect of social media ties into it. And it's kind of, when you see a video of, a 3-year-old child prodigy playing the piano or doing something, or you see, right, a 98-year-old woman graduating from college,
Yes.
when 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, that wasn't possible for them. And I think a lot of times, it spreads across and affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And I was just looking at our chat and I realized the questions that kind of got cut off. Steph, earlier you talked about, kings and queens in Africa. Jermaine, you talked a little about your family. And the question I have, the next question is, would we have kind of Black excellence without like white supremacy or without being in this country? And I know Steph, you kind of touched on it, but do y'all think we would?
Right. Chris is here for the questions, right?
Chris! Brother.
White supremacy.
Because I don't know if you can have it.
Mm.
Because if everyone was just excellent, there'd be no need to make a distinction. If
Right.
everybody was just doing it, and if we weren't so suppressed and oppressed, there wouldn't be a need for us to promote Black excellence and that, that well image of ourselves. So, man, that's a great question. To me, I don't think that Black excellence would be what it is without white supremacy. I don't think it could flourish. I don't think that the fire could be turned up on it. We have to push it so much. One, because there's a group of people trying to erase our history, our Black excellent history. That's the no-go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Two, we're being so beat down and oppressed, right? That we have to make sure to remember, hey, where you come from? What's your history?
Right.
There's excellence in your very DNA, in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
That question was bomb. And I do not think that we would have such a rise of Black excellence without white supremacy, because you're trying to push something down. You push us down, we rise to the top. The harder you push, the higher we rise, the harder we go. You can't knock us down. They've been, so man, that's good. But I stick with that. I don't believe that Black excellence would be what it is without white supremacy. So thank you, white supremacists. We appreciate you.
No, I agree. Jermaine, you got something?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's because I'm preparing for like a mental health in the church series with one of the churches I'm affiliated with. And the theme I'm using is pressure. And I think about a diamond, and the only way it is created is if pressure is applied. And I feel like the way that our American history, right? Because we have history outside of America, but the Americanized, the westernized, gentrified, whatever word you want to use, when we came here, I feel like there was so much pressure applied, and it was like, so what are you going to do with the pressure? Are you going to rise to the top, or are you just going to like kind of stay at the bottom? And I feel like historically we were trying to be shoved down and be like, you're not going to make it, and you don't have the resources, and we're not going to give you the same books, we're not going to give you the same rights, we're not going to give you the same education. And so I think we were kind of like Steph was saying, we were forced to rise, we were forced to become excellent, because it's like you tried everything in your power to make us not. and I think about the diamond, and even when it is suppressed, and even when it is shoved down, it is still formulating something great on the inside. And I feel like that's what makes Black excellence excellent, is because it's not just we're excelling with the equal amounts of resources and equal amounts of education and the equal amounts of respect. Like, we had to work our way here, and that's what makes it excellence. We had to overcome adversities from everywhere, and even within our own community. Like, we somehow, as a culture, we internalize what was put on us. And so what is racism outside of our culture kind of turned into like colorism and all of those things that we still are dealing with and trying to overcome. And then there's the sexist part. And then it's like, well, who's better? Black women, Black men? Who's stronger? Who's on the totem pole? Like, where do we fall? And it's like, or we just focus on the fact that we have overcome adversity. And unfortunately, we are still forced to do that. But that's what makes us excellent, is the fact that when pressure was applied, we still rose.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good.
So I'm just trying to make sure I'm logged in here. Absolutely, and I was right. I was taking up some notes too, and just some words that I was thinking about in there. Colorism, things that used to divide us, right? And I know from our episode last week, we had some things we wanted to still talk about, and we caught up on, just in terms of like the broken relationships and broken homes, and the safety of Black women with Black men, right? Not just even in romantic relationships, but platonic relationships, parents, the family home, and the family system. And I think what we do, despite our circumstances, is great, but where we come from, right, is also important. So when we're talking about, are our parents, were our parents able to achieve what they consider Black excellence, right? Just that idea of, I'm going to give you a home, I'm going to keep you safe, I'm going to put clothes on your back, I'm going to do, give you those basic things, because I may not have had them, and then what you do with them is kind of up to you to flourish or not. And I think for a lot of people that pressure is a lot to carry, right? Sometimes it can be a burden. If you are a first generation anything, or if you are someone who, not to compare, right? But if you come from an environment where people are doctors and lawyers and all these other things, and you want to do that, but you want to be an artist, right? You're oftentimes looked at as different, or however the case is. But there is success in all those things that we're looking at. So I did want to ask, of course, how is this affecting our mental health? And before I ask you two, I'll answer this first, just because I've touched on it a little bit in previous episodes, just regarding, I talked about how in high school I had like an identity crisis, and even down to, graduating from college, not knowing what to do with myself, because for 18 to 21 years, my life has been structured in a way that was dependent on You know, someone's asking me to do something, I do it, I get the acknowledgement, whether it be an A, B, C, whatever the case is, you know, and then I move on and go to tackle the next task or pass the next class. But as I've moved away from that and become a father, living for not only myself but for her, thinking about how the idea of Black excellence is and what I want to pass down to my child, I would say it's taken a toll on my mental health, just in terms of, you know, looking at and reflecting and having people around me that know, you know, when I'm not in a good mind space, or
Right.
If I'm caring too much and I'm being passive aggressive to this person, or having emotional outbursts at this person. And I think it's important to kind of surround yourself with those people who can support you in that. And I don't think anyone is ever excellent alone. I think it's always something that we have to, we hold ourselves up and we continue to move forward with it. But kind of where I want to go with this too is, you know, I know that both of you are you know, leaders in the church, and I would say more spiritually inclined than I am. You know, how's like your faith, you know, been in terms of maintaining your mental health, and if it's, you know, this idea of chasing Black excellence affected either of your mental health?
Chris, that's a good question. Like, good question. I'm thinking like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, when I start, well, let me take a moment to say what's up to everybody. Hey y'all.
Hey,
Is that
Auntie
Auntie Joyce? Everyone's loving the questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, we're talking about intersectionality, where we have being Black in America in the church. Based on social media, what I've seen, I mean, there are certain denominations where, you know, you wear the big hat, you wear the Sunday best, you wear the glittery, the more shiny, the more gleaming, the better. You know what I mean? I think when you determine what your own version of Black excellence is, then you can go forward. Some people don't know their own identity, right? And some people will try to adopt someone else's Black excellence. You both are Black excellence in my eyes, but we have different versions of Black excellence. So what I've seen in the church, being a church baby, growing up in the church, now serving in the church, right? I see people trying to subscribe or ascribe to other people's versions of Black excellence. Oh, you're talking about mental health issue? Oh, what? That creates a schism and a breakdown in the brain, because it's like, whoa, I'm not obtaining my own Black excellence because I'm trying to follow yours. And if I can't obtain yours, Chris, if I can't obtain yours, Jermaine, my mind is shattered and fragmented and I'm all over the place. And so sometimes we don't know our own selves, or we haven't seen enough Black excellence. And if I have not internalized Black excellence and I make that thing my own, then I'm just going to flow with anyone's. And when it doesn't become true, or if I watch on Instagram or I see on TikTok or I see on Facebook, my version of what I think Black excellence is based on what I think someone else is supposed to be doing, and I haven't achieved that, and I haven't met that mark, now that unreachable mark, because it's not my own, oh, it's a wrap. And I speak from experience, right? I had to learn my own identity. And I can't put on the long dress, and I can't put on the head covering and all this and the heels and stuff. I want to be me. And what does Black excellence look like in the church for me? It means me, a millennial, staying in church when I could be out doing a whole bunch of other things, serving and pouring and staying connected to the kingdom and things like that, and praying and speaking over people and doing all that. That's Black excellence to me. We've been Black and excellent in the church for years, since we got to this country and beyond. But I had to figure it out for myself. And if we don't figure out what Black excellence is for ourselves, we're just going to pick, and it's going to be like a la carte. Now you start to get all broken up, and I'm going to go here, go there, everywhere. So I had to learn that. Now I feel like I know what it is for me, and I'm going to celebrate you and you. I'm also knowing who I am in Black excellence, and I'm okay with that.
Listen, I was trying to remember all of the questions that Christopher threw out. So the first one, mental health and Black excellence. I feel, you know, I didn't do an extensive amount of research, but I did a little something on the post-traumatic slave syndrome. And how when you think about that, it's really hard for people of color in general to feel like I can be something because of all of the things we were told that we were not and that we can't be. And, you know, when Steph mentioned that part about erasing history, it's like it's really hard to know like who you are when you can only go so far back, because as we know, like slaves weren't given records of like where you came from and who's your daddy and who's like where's your line, like where's your lineage, where's that from. And so, you know, that leads to this like identity crisis, like Chris was saying, like I don't know who I am, I don't know where I come from, I don't know, like I could have kings and queens in my lineage, but because it only goes oh so far back, like I don't know. So I think that takes a toll. But then also when you realize how oppressed you are as a people, and we're not just talking slavery days, we're even talking currently, how you know glass ceilings definitely are still a thing. It's like they give you the illusion like, no, yeah, you can go be great, go be a CEO of a company, go, you know, own a Fortune 500, like go do something amazing. But even still, there's still someone sitting on your neck that's like, you can have it, but you ain't gonna have all of it, and you're gonna owe us something. And even like when you think about, you know, the market and like how when we started to develop our own economy, that was a threat, so that got shut down. And it's like we can't even have our own, because when we start to develop our own, we're like, fine, you have your stuff and we'll get it over here. But when we get it over here, you still want to control it and you want to shut it down, so you destroy it, right? So when you constantly are trying and then failing and then trying and failing, your hope, you know, it goes away. You're just kind of like, well, what's the point of even trying? So you don't. And that takes a major toll on your mental health, because you're just like, what is the point of trying? What is the point of, if I don't bother yours, I still can't have mine. So, you know, and there's depression and identity crisis, and then get anxious because when you start striving, it's like this could go away at any moment. So you're like, you're hyper vigilant all the time. Hyper vigilant is like your alert system is always like firing off. So those mental health implications come from all of those, like trying to overcome but not knowing how to. When it comes to the church, I think Steph said the politically correct answer, so I'm gonna go with she said. I think we had to find
what's the unpolitically correct answer, because
we want to hear that.
Yeah, I want to hear the same thing twice. I need to know.
We want the variety.
I feel like
as a black man,
I have a lot of conversations, and I heard someone breaking down religion and saying, I don't know why Black people are Christians, because they use Christianity to further enslave us and to control us, and right? And I said, okay, but what if we were Christians before we got over here? Like, did you miss that part? Because, you know, they like to throw that verse in the Bible where it says, slaves, obey your master. And it's like, yes, that's what they were using over here. But Christianity didn't just start in America. Like, so it was clearly brought over here. And it is, if it was the way that slaves were communicating, if it was the way that when we were enslaved, that we found hope and that we found joy in the midst of all of the pain and all of the suffering, it's like, I don't understand why Black people are so against Christianity. But it's like, even if you're against the religion itself, it's like God didn't do anything wrong, right? It's people misinterpreting the word. It's people misinterpreting like what God in the Bible is. And it's like, it's all about relationships, people. And I feel like if you only look at Christianity as a mind control thing, it's like, well, then that's how you know you're not doing it right. Like, you don't have it correct. Like, God is not one to control you. Like, God doesn't want robots. He wants children. He wants friends. He wants companions. So it's like, if you think that this whole thing is about mind control and submission, it's like, yes, you're going to submit, but in any relationship, you have submission. Like, if you're in a relationship, you can just act out like, I'm here and I'm single. It's like, no, you're not. Submit to the concept of being in a relationship. You're not single, so don't act single, right? And I feel like when it comes to finding hope, you have to find hope somewhere. You have to attach, your soul needs to attach itself to something that is stronger and bigger than self, and that is God, you know. So If you ask me, that is God. Everyone says it's the universe and stars, and make sure for Jermaine, what works for me is Jesus Christ himself. So it's like, in order for me to be excellent, I have to connect myself to the source. He's what makes me excellent. He's what allows me to strive. He's what allows me to continue in the midst of everything that exists. So, that's my answer. I hope I answered all your lovely questions, Christopher.
Yeah, you did. It was only 2 questions. It wasn't that.
But they were deep.
Many.
They were deep, and they were like
Yeah.
layered, sir.
No, I mean, yeah.
Yes, Black Wall Street. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Thanks, Mimo.
Yeah, yep. And I mean, as like I said, I look to both of you as leaders in that community, and for someone like myself, my name is, I know what my etymology of my name is. It means bearer of Christ, right? My mother grew up Seventh-day Adventist, but moved to America when she was a child and didn't really keep up with her religion, so I didn't have anything to attach myself to. Tried to go to church. One of the people who caused me a significant amount of trauma, again, utilized Christianity as a weapon against me, as opposed to something that could open my mind. And obviously I've done the work, and Jermaine, you and I have talked extensively about my faith and what I believe, and I know, not to get too off topic or anything, but again, the thing that stuck out for me, what Steph said was, what does being a millennial in the church look like for you? Jermaine, what you kind of said is that submission aspect and the hypervigilance. And I think, again, the description that I use for this is for Black excellence for those who are looking to achieve it. And if you are looking to achieve it, where do you go? Who do you look to? If it's not in the church, who are your mentors, right? If you grew up in a single parent household, you don't really understand as a man, right? Say I'll use me as an example. I'm a man. I grew up with unhealthy and toxic views on masculinity. Yet I was raised by all women. My aunt, she can't even keep count, 4 or 5 aunts, all women. Basically raised me as their little brother. All these other things. So I'm very much in tune with my feminine side of myself, but I'm also naturally a man, so I have a masculine side of myself. So how do we hold those 2 things in court so that way we're able to not be more of one or more than the other, but in my space, right? As a father of a daughter now, I have to be able to be both, right? Understand who she is, but also still hold my position as the protector, the leader, all those other things. And I did not always have the best examples of what it means to be a protector or a leader. But I got that reinforcement from mentors, and I got that reinforcement from people in my lives. So, I would say outside of religion, who do you guys look to as kind of mentors and people who help you out navigating the day-to-day aspect of life, being excellent?
Wow, so many. I don't know. I'm gonna pass it off to Jermaine.
Listen, like I said, way back when, a village raised me. Okay, so I don't just have 2 or 3. I got like a good 4 or 5. I have 2 professional mentors. One of them is my supervisor. Another one is one of my colleagues that I work with, and she was a supervisor at one point, but now she just kind of holds me down. I feel like one of the deacons at my church, he's great. Everyone knows David Offit. Hey, Uncle David. Something that he's always saying, he's like, if you're the smartest one in the circle, you need to get a different circle. If you're the richest one in the circle, you got to get a different circle. If you're the smartest one, get you a different circle. And so I always strive to put myself in a circle of people who have either been where I'm trying to go, or they at least have that mindset of thinking bigger than where they are. And so normally that means older people. A lot of there's only like two of my mentors that are like my age. My mentor Christina, she is amazing. She is a firehouse in the church, and she has given me the courage to be able to step out and do this, business of mine and ministry things. My mom, obviously one of my anchors in this world. She's showed up and she's been consistent every single step of the way. And she's the leader that leads from behind. She doesn't have to be in front of you to be like, come on, this is where you go. She's like, hey, listen, where you go, I'm going to support. And if I need to call out some things, I'll call them out, but I don't have to lead from the front. And my mom taught me how to lead from all directions. My spiritual dad, he's a mentor of mine, because he truly, genuinely loves people. And I'm working on that. Because as a minister, as a healer, you have to love people. People aren't easily loved. So he definitely shows me how to love people and how to stay genuine to yourself. I would say Steph is one. Steph, I definitely look up to. Girl, I love you, girl.
I love you.
Steph definitely gives insight when it's needed, and I be needing it because, me and Steph have a lot of conversations, and I tell her, like, it's really hard to talk to people who don't get the work, who don't get the weight, who don't understand not just what it is to be a Black female, but what it is to be a Black female and a minister and a therapist. Like, it's hard. So the fact that she is all of those and some, it's like, Steph, help me. My best friends are great confidants. I spent the weekend with them, and they're amazing, and they definitely help balance the sister out. They call me out on my stuff all the time. Can't get away with anything with those two. So yeah, I do have two ministers in the church that help me understand what it means to be a female minister, how to carry myself, because not everyone is fond of female ministers, and they are still very much old school. Like, what do you mean women are allowed to have positions in the church that's not usher or nurse or whatever? Like, what?
Yeah.
So I have a lot. I have a lot of mentors spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. Yeah.
Oh.
Man.
It takes a village for sure.
It does. It really does. And I think we might be in the last generation of like that outside playing, neighborhood raising. You know what I mean? Like, you went to everyone's house and everyone's mom could say something, and you knew that if someone told someone that it's going to get back to your parent, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I grew up in Brockton, right? And some of my mentors have passed on, right? But they were some of the older mothers in the church. I'm like, Jermaine, I don't really hang around with people my age. Like, it's usually older people or youth or kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a big gap, right? Like, either you're high school age and younger, I'm chilling with you, or you're older because I want wisdom from you and we can share and go back and forth. There's a couple women. I'm thinking of Ramona Jackson. I'm thinking of Eula May Knowles. That's my grandmother. These women were about faith. They grew up in the Jim Crow era. They came up to Boston in this racist time. I'm just, it was back in the day, and they raised their children. They bought houses. They instilled Black excellence in their children. That's major. My pastor is really big for me. Like, she's awesome. She's amazing. Really has a heart for the people. Like, I watch how she navigates through certain situations. I think we have similar personalities, so I'm watching how she does certain things to get just a good understanding and idea. I mean, my current village, Jermaine's in my village, Dominique Jones is in my village, Tim Jones is in my village. Like, Tim, like, that's my best friend. He's been my best friend since college. Like, this is the homie, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Got married to Dominique. I actually knew his wife before. Like, there's just people in the circle who understand me, who understand what's going on, who can speak to me, because certain people can speak to you and certain people can't, and they have to know how to say things. My mom majorly like instilled everything: culture, grit, resilience, faith, prayer, all that. I watched her get knocked down in a divorce. I watched her get back up. I watched her rebuild her life and keep going and pushing. Like, that's major to me. You know what I mean? My oldest sister, went to Tuskegee, had 4 kids, is a film director, moved and worked and did what she needed to do. Like, you know what I mean? So I think seeing those women when I was younger and they poured into me and chastised me, gave me a tap tap when I needed it, you know what I mean? A correction. And then growing up, just knowing who my tribe is, my best friend Chanel, like, oh my gosh, even her daughter Mia, she's a prophet and she speaks into our lives just like she's 16, but God is speaking to her and she shares, and it's beautiful. So it's just a good tribe. It's just a good group of people, and those are the people who poured into me, who are currently pouring into me now. So it's a village. It's a wide village, and it's multiple people pouring. And as they pour, I fill up, and then I pour into them, and it's just, you know, a circle going around and around.
Yeah, no, I really do think that's beautiful, and that, you know, encompasses the aspect of, right, if you want to go the fastest, you can go alone, but if you want to go the furthest, you go together. And I think for us specifically, and for Black women, you know, there is that ceiling of people who are going to tell you can't do. We're not used to women in charge of doing those things, and
Right.
you know, especially for me as a Black man, feeling as though the entire world is a threat or sees you as a threat. It can be challenging oftentimes to want to continue to move forward and excel. And I was, again, taking notes about what both of you said, and like what stuck out was the being able to rebuild your life, right? And then for Janae, it was the people who keep us in check, right? And I think those are two of the biggest kind of things that if you don't have that, and the reason why I'm asking and bringing in these things up is for those of whoever's watching. If you don't, right, it can be difficult to reach out to someone and say, you know, like Janae said, looking for people who at least been where you are or where you want to be, or have that mindset. And it can oftentimes be, you know, you have to be humble and humble yourself and say, you know, Jermaine, how can, you know, I need help, right? Or I need help. I don't have the answer. And for me, much like both of you, you know, my mother has always been that rock and foundation for me. You know, and she teaches me she taught me a level of independence and a level of, you know, as much as tired as you may be, rest, but get back to it. You know, as upset as you may be calm and cool. Again, Jermaine and I have talked about it. You know, I look to her as a spiritual advisor. I have my daughter, who's my, you know, my emotional advisor. I have mentors who I met when I was 13, who had transitioned into my life and are now my family. So you know, when I say my aunt and uncle, they're included in that aspect too, and you know, my supervisor at work as well, who provides support in those ways, and I'm always looking. Like, I'm always looking for people who know better than me, because I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. It's boring. Like, being the smartest person in the room is boring because you have no one to talk to. So, or if you're talking about things that, you know, other people just may not understand. So I really think it's important, you know, to have those people and to have those mentors, because much of like what we talked about in every other episode is kind of like, you know, where you start or where you come from, you know, all of our individual journeys, but where we end up and where we want to go, you know, depends on those choices and decisions that we make for ourselves.
Yeah.
Just taking a look at the time here, I think we went through a couple of comments. Denise talked about Black Wall Street, mentioned the oldest Christian Bible and religion is in Africa. Thank you for putting that up.
Of course.
Ron Jackson, if a woman can read the word, she can preach the word.
Come on, Dad. Come on, Dad. Come on, Dad.
You know, I don't want to move past that too quick. You know, I don't want to.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to discredit.
Go ahead, Dave.
You know, it's hard for me, how I grew up thinking a woman can't. Like, Just can't.
Sure.
Because again, the people who I have my grandfather and my grandmother who work together, right? I have my aunts who are there for me. I'm in a field that is considered a caring profession or a female dominant field. However, like I mentioned before, that masculine and feminine working together is important. And the work that I do working with young men, right? A lot of them who are lost, a lot of them who aren't trusting, just being there, right? I know I'm setting an example for them so that way they can be excellent. And as much as I talk, and I might talk about the most random things and things they don't want to hear or talk about, I like to think regardless, it's getting through at some point. And to go to that comment, especially if you look at, I don't know what field in any type of life that you can look at and women aren't near the top or if not dominating, especially now. And I know in America, right, we all have our ideologies and different things, but it's a hard world to live in if you can't work. And all I say is if you can't work with a woman, it would be a hard life and a hard world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if we can go to that next comment too. No specific one person. I take a little from everyone who plays a positive role in my life, and even people not so positive. It teaches me what to avoid and what throws me off. Yes. Right. What came to mind was forgive and forget. Right. You can forgive, but don't ever forget. Right. You gotta take those lessons with you, and that's where I think we have knowledge, we have wisdom, we have experience. Those things have to work together in order for you to learn. If someone's giving you positive feedback or positive enforcement, it feels good all the time. But if someone gives you negative comments or negative enforcement, then it's something to evaluate, right? Because again, something I got from my mentor that I carry with me, pretty much every day now is, my impact, my intention may be different than the impact, right? Yeah. How you feel about something might not be how I wanted it to be communicated or how I meant for you to feel it. So I could very well be wrong, right? And this whole idea of being humble and being able to apologize is I think is the biggest thing, like we talked about previously. And then this last comment, nothing to learn if you're the smartest, right? I want to live a very long, successful, fulfilled life, and I want to learn as long as I can. And if I, God forbid, can't lose my senses and all that stuff, then I'm good. I lived a wonderful life. But, I think we always have something to learn. And me being the age that I am now, I have not only a desire to, but like a hunger that's like, all right, I still have more things to learn. I still have more things that I haven't dealt with or haven't come across that need to in order for me to grow and get to that next level of whatever excellence looks like to me. All right. Anyone have any comments on those questions? Those are the only ones. So I know we're getting close to our time here. I just have a couple more questions for everyone. I just wanted to kind of pick everyone's brain on how I was looking at the chart. This is our 5th episode. It doesn't feel like it. But how does this kind of topic tie into what we've previously talked about? And I can, our first episode was Wounded Healers. Our second was Broken Homes. Third was Boundaries. Last week we did Broken Individuals / Relationships, and now we've been on the letter B path here. So how is Black excellence tied into all of those kind of topics for both of you?
I think when we first started talking about this episode, we were talking about overcoming and the power to realize that, I might have started off a little rocky and things may have been rough, but excellence is the ability to consistently get up and to adjust and to adapt and to keep going and to find purpose and meaning in everything that you're going through. And I feel like mental health isn't talked about enough, unfortunately, and especially in the brown and Black communities. And we have to realize like what breaks us doesn't define us. And
Mm.
where we've been, it doesn't define anything but the past, right? So as we're growing and we're excelling and we're evolving, we have to remember our roots, right? But then also say, in spite of where I've been, I still have sight for where I want to go. And excellence is constantly having a vision. I feel like if you lose the vision, you lose the meaning, you lose purpose, you lose the fight, you lose the grit, like Steph was saying, you lose your integrity because you're like, what is all this even for? Like, you don't know because you don't have sight for something for the future. And I feel like a lot of people, but especially, people of color, we look at our predicaments and we say, because this exists, I can never be fill in the blank, right? And I think what we're trying to promote and I guess discourage is like, don't think that that is where it stops. It's not where it stops. Have a dream, have a vision, and you fight for where it is. If you, like Chris was saying, if you don't have the people, you got to find them. You have to connect yourself to people who can push you forward or pull you into the places where you need to be. And while we as a community, we definitely promote community often, I think what we fail to realize is that we still have that like crabs at the bottom of the barrel type mentalities in some senses. Like, stop tearing each other down. We're all supposed to be making it. So it's like, me and Steph
There's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, if me and Steph, we're in very similar fields. I can't look at Steph and like, well, I don't like Steph. Her locks are better than mine, and she's out here excelling. And it's like, first of all, a win for the kingdom is a win for us all. So like, a win for Black women is a win for us all. And unfortunately, we tear each other down too often. And that's where Black excellence doesn't, it stops. Like, we can only blame the white man for oh so long. Like, we can't neglect or negate the fact that we are a part of our own destruction, right? We self-sabotage often. But outside of self-sabotaging, we will tear other people down and be like, no, I want to do that. Like the Bible talks about, like, listen, you may be on the same hand, but every single finger has its own purpose, right? You have two hands for a reason. What the left hand does, the right hand does something completely different. So it's like, understand you can operate in similar spaces and similar lanes without having to destroy the people in front of you or tear people down. And, the Celtics, like Chris said, I was rooting, man. Listen, I called it. I said Celtics in 7, but we lost. I digress. And the way that these people were dragging the Celtics, I said, hold on.
Ripping them to shreds.
Like, first of all, y'all weren't playing. Secondly, why are you tearing people down when they're already down? Like, as an athlete, when I lost, I hated everybody and everything. But the first person I hated was myself because I failed. I feel like I failed the world, even though it's like high school sports or college sports. But you feel that weight. And so for people to just be out here dragging them when they're at their lowest, I'm like, come on, do better. But as a community, that's what we do. So it's like, learn how to heal those broken, untended to, unaddressed pain so that we can be Black excellence.
Whew. That was summed up nicely. It was. I'm like, oh shoot. Just following the thread, okay, you aware that you're a wounded healer. And most wounded healers have come from broken homes, right? And then sometimes we don't know our boundaries, and that causes us to be broken individuals with broken relationships. And you really can identify or acknowledge or even recognize your Black excellence if you're broken and destroyed. If your view of yourself, if how you see yourself, if your vantage or your perspective is off, there's no way you can see that Black excellence. And then what Jermaine was explaining, the tear down happens. If I cannot see Black excellence in myself, I'm for sure not going to see it in you.
Right.
And if I don't build it up in myself, I'm going to try to tear it down in you. Yeah. Something that I want to mention, I think Denise mentioned, Black Wall Street. I was thinking other races and cultures know all about our Black excellence. they are familiar with it, they're aware of it, they understand the magnitude of it, so they'll do anything to tear it down. We, us who have it, we don't even recognize that we have it, and that's the trick. And
Yeah.
they've been successful, but we're waking up. More people are waking up. More people's eyes are being opened, and we're understanding that we are Black excellence. It's not something you just spray on like a perfume. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. It's
Yeah.
who we are. It's in our bones. It's in our chemical makeup, right? It's just who we are as a people, as a nation, as the chosen ones, as the called ones. And so I'm like, other people can recognize it in us. And I know they recognize it in us because they fill their lips with collagen. They get Brazilian butt lifts. They tan the heck out of their bodies where they're just as brown as this shirt. They're going through cancer and all this stuff to make themselves look like Black people. Right. The very Black people that they call this, that, and the third. If everyone else can see our excellence, it's time, Black people, for us to wake up and see our own excellence and acknowledge that we are excellent. The entire world knows that we're excellent. They will do anything to stop us from it. Black Wall Street, there's millions of other stories where we have built something up and they've taken it down. They've destroyed it. They've taken it back, or they've perverted it and all this. We are excellent. It's who we are. We can't be anything but. But if our eyes are closed to it, I'm like, dag, we can't see it. I never want to tear my Black brother or sister down. I never want to tear anyone down. But just specifically for this episode, I want to tear any of my Black family members down, whether we're biologically related. Well, we're all related anyway, but anywho, I don't want to tear anyone down because, like Jermaine said, a win is a win. A win for you both is a win for me. I'm celebrating with you. I'm happy for you. I'm excited for you because you represent Black excellence. If we don't know our identity, if we have insecurities, if we have a poor view of ourselves, no, we're not going to celebrate Black excellence. Actually, we're going to be in the opposite. We're going to be tearing it down and destroying it. So yeah, I like that tie-in question. I think it's a thread that we're weaving. We're weaving a whole outfit together.
Yeah,
absolutely. I know you got. Well, I'll answer, and then I know we kind of our time is getting close, but and everyone kind of answered the last question by not knowing what the last question was, but I did want to just address and talk about some things that stuck out. And like Lilac said, a win is a win for all of us. Like Jermaine said, right? We adjust and adapt, but you know that mentality of being crabs in a barrel. Like when I look at anyone excelling who looks like me, I don't look at it as a threat. I look at it as that means that I can do it too.
Yes.
Right. So that means if I can do it too, then you can. And I know for those who may be watching and you're not in the best mind space, or you're not in a position to where you feel as though you can excel. You woke up this morning, you accomplished something that is excellent. You have to be able to clap for yourself before you can clap for anyone else. And I think we oftentimes don't give ourselves enough credit, you know, and we'd rather do that for others. And both of you said a lot of beautiful things, so I won't take up too much time. But if we, the last question to kind of wrap it up, what is, I want to ask, might want to ask this differently, but what is the future? And you guys can answer for yourselves or what you would like to see, but what does the future of, you know, Black excellence look like for both of you?
What another good question. Bomb. I mean, I like it because I don't know if I think of Black excellence every day. Like I see it on social media, right? But I don't know if I think of it like, okay, how are you going to add to the Black excellence pool, or how are you going to add to the Black excellence that's going on? I've been seeing, we're talking about excellence, so we see graduation time and stuff like that. I've been seeing all the Black students graduating from Harvard and all of them becoming doctors and all that. Like, I love seeing that. I have no aspirations to be a medical doctor. Let me tell you that right now. I am in a PhD program, right? So to me, I'm like, let's get it going. It's hard, it's grueling, it's whatever. School is just, after the pandemic for me, school was like, I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to keep going. That to me is like, let's keep thriving, let's keep going forward. You know, all those thoughts, all those comments like, oh, I am my ancestors' wildest dream. No, that's true. We are. Our ancestors fought, bled, and died. Some lost their lives so we could be here excelling in our great Blackness. So that's a mindset that I keep. in and outside of Black History Month, right? It's greater than February. It's Black History 365, Black Excellence 365. Like, let's keep this moving by excelling to be the highest version of myself. I guess I'll sum it up saying that I want to be the best Stephanie Lilac I can be. Whatever that looks like, I'm using all my gifts. I'm opening my mouth and speaking what God says to me. Like, all that encompasses me doing Black excellence, being the best version of me.
Ask the question again, Chris, because my brain went 5 different directions. Go ahead.
The question was, what does Black excellence look like in the future for you?
For moi, I think Black excellence is legacy building. That's where I envision it.
I was going to say that. What did you say?
I think
great minds.
Right, we be here sometimes. I think what I realized is that generational wealth doesn't really exist in our community, and I feel like it's more than just like monetary value, right? It's more than just like real estate and property. Like someone had asked me a question like, so when you die, what do you want to be known for? And I think it was like after a funeral, and there was a poem that was talking about the dash, and it's like we all have a beginning and we all have an end, but the important thing is what do you do with that dash? And I feel like fulfillment for me and excellence for me is not Jermaine being in a nice penthouse suite with all of these lovely things. I think it's really like, but how has my life impacted other people, and what have I left behind? How have I empowered individuals to strengthen families, to have better communities? Like, that's what I'm here for. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to encounter me and encounter God. I want people to encounter me and feel hope and feel love and feel peace and feel joy, feel hope. Like, if I don't do that, I feel like I failed in my dash. And so I want to make sure that excellence is a continuation. It doesn't just stop with me. I'm not the first one in my family to go to college, nor am I the first one in my family to own a business. But I feel like I want to be the first one in my family to make sure that we are creating a legacy, and we're not just doing everything to obtain wealth now. Like, I want my great grandbabies, if the Lord don't come before that, because the way the life is right now, come back in the day now. But like my great grandbabies, I want them talking about the stuff that I've done, and how communities were strengthened because of me, and how young people made it to adulthood and beyond because of something that I was able to say, and making sure that I'm fulfilling my God-given purpose. Like, that's what excellence for me is.
Awesome. Both lovely answers. And I think to just kind of wrap it up, and both of you spoke on things that I've thought about and I think about every day. And Jermaine, that aspect of, not to be gruesome or end on a negative note, but who's going to be at my funeral, right? Or what's going to, what will they say? And that legacy aspect, it's becoming a parent has it made it a lot more apparent. But I think even prior to that, just having a positive impact on people, and saying that they learned something from me, and definitely, I think, and within the monetary aspect of it, being able to take care of my family and just enjoy the company of the people that I love and care about. I think we're so caught up in the rat race of life that, holidays come around, and we celebrate the holidays, but do we get to celebrate each other like we want to? And I think for me, and hopefully for everyone who's watching, it's that you do feel some level of excellence in yourself, and that you are still striving towards and trying to achieve that. And it's not easy, but finding your village and finding the people that bring the best out of you, and learning from the people who don't will be something that a task that we all continue to take. But yeah. I don't think there's any more comments on the end here. I just see from Denise, she said amen and affirmation, and continue to affirm yourself, continue to have strength and power and excellence in who you are. And like I said, like we started this is episode 5 of Let This Mind. I'm Chris Melville, joined by my co-hosts. You guys have any last thoughts or anything?
It's the pause for me.
Yeah, like woo. No, I think this episode was awesome, and I think it's so important that we celebrate Black excellence and whatever that looks like for us. It doesn't always have to be some big Pulitzer Prize or Emmys, or it can be something small, like just accomplishing something, getting a raise at work, like anything. It can be as big or as small as we want it to be. So celebrate, y'all. Whoop whoop.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. I'm like Steph said, like celebrate everything, because the way to avoid the woes of life to weigh you down is to learn how to celebrate the small successes. So when you wake up, and even if today wasn't such a great day, but you made it through the day, that's some excellent things. If people were poking at those buttons and you didn't react and blow up on them and fit that stigma of like the angry Black person, you did something excellent today. So, I mean, celebrate your wins, learn from your losses, and remember you are excellent, because when pressure was applied, you became a beautiful diamond.
Boom. All right, what are we talking about next week?
Is your mother Jackie? No.
Yeah, my mom is Jackie. Yes, she is.
Denise is born and raised in Brockton, so she knows a lot.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna check out your profile when we get off here. I'm gonna see who you are.
Denise knows.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
Okay.
Have a good night.